welcome to Tremco Live, where we're socially distant but technically connected. As always, I'm very excited to join you each and every Friday to be able to talk about design challenges. I am Marcy Tyler, the Director of Building Science for Tremco, and I'm joined by my co-host.
And I am Paul Hoogenboom. I'm the president of Tremco Construction Products Group, Marcy, a fine collection all over the world, products, systems, brands, and people.
People. So excited. We like to talk about what's going on and how this week's gone, and we will not talk about counting any votes today, I promise.
No.
Though we know we're talking
we're going to count some votes though in our polls.
That's true. We have a different kind of
poll. But we count those right away.
We do. So we'll give you guys a nice little wind down your Friday. Hopefully, let's not think about what's going on politically right now, and let's talk about design challenges. So, Paul wrapped up last month. We had a great a month of talking about sports venues and sports arenas. A lot of great guests.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to be using those sports venues in the months to come, right?
Yes.
There's some fits and starts,
Absolutely. We'll definitely be looking forward to seeing that as these football teams progress, both college. Yeah, well, I know there's high school playoffs going on right now, and obviously college, and of course our NFL.
Big game at South Bend, one of our famous stadiums.
That's right.
In use.
That's right. Clemson
goes there without their quarterback.
Right. Exactly.
Let's see how the other freshman does.
Exactly. We wish all those teams a healthy return to the sport, and of course a healthy and safe game.
Yeah.
So as Paul and I join you guys each and every Friday, if you are new to joining us, we want to say welcome. We're glad to have you. But we thought since this is our 27th broadcast.
Wow.
27th broadcast. We thought we'd start off with a poll. The poll today, which will be tallied within a few minutes, is all about you. How many times have you joined us? Is this your first time that you're joining us for this broadcast? So if you could start answering that poll for us right now, that would be great. So is this your first broadcast? Have you joined us for about 2 to 5 of our broadcasts? Is it more than 5, or I've seen them all?
Wow.
Now, Paul and I can say we have. Well, actually, you haven't been to all of them, but you've seen them all.
I've seen them all.
Exactly.
Yep, I missed a few.
Yes.
So you're ahead of me. Yes. I think you'll always be ahead of me.
I think I will always be ahead of you. You won't be able to catch up. So we'll see how that turns out. Can we share those results? Very good. Okay, great. So we've got a good mix there. 10%, this is your first broadcast, so welcome to Tremco Live. We're happy to have you, and we hope you continue to join us as you wind down your week. We've got 23% that have joined us between 2 to 5 times. We've got 56% that is more than 5, and 10% that's seen them all. So that's great. That's so exciting. Thank you all for participating in that poll. And of course, thank you so much for joining us on a regular basis. We are in the month of November shouting out to our healthcare workers and saying thank you. So we're going to have a whole month about giving thanks to our healthcare workers. If you have a human interest story that you'd like to share, or a healthcare project, as always, we would love to be able to share that and talk to you about that. So if you want to share that, let us know. We're also working on a special segment for the week of Thanksgiving. So we won't be live, but Paul and I have got something that we want to give thanks to, and we'll be able to share that pre-recorded for everybody. So as we are talking about healthcare this month, and of course, loving our beginning slide because it does show all the different systems and products and people that we get to represent each and every Friday, I wanted to bring up this slide. So why do I have this up there, Paul? This was some information that we produced when we launched one of our products several years ago called XOR 130. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to be able to feature how an air barrier or the XOR air barrier systems can be a jacket of protection for your structure. So we're looking at air, water, and of course that assembly can provide thermal, but then it also has to have fire resistance qualities too. So it's I thought it was a pretty interesting way to be able to feature that. And we have a brand new AIA and continuing education credit where we feature the test facility and do an AIA called a jacket of protection. So if that's of interest to anybody, please let me know. We'd love to be able to share that with all of you. But the other thing that we find very interesting as we look at that, the whole building science aspect and jacket of protection, there's a variety of things that really come to mind for me as it relates to you, our customers. If you work for a design firm, we really like the capability of being able to provide tie-ins, right? We talk about connectivity in the industry, and that's where the issues lie.
Yep, but two things come together, and we want that to be a T for Tremco.
A T for Tremco, that's pretty cool. When we think about those connections, we talk a lot of times on these broadcasts and we talk to our customers about how versatile they have to be and how they have to handle different types of movement. So something like this ProGlaze ETA, very versatile, right? It's got elongation, it can move with the building and really make that connection. You don't want to make a connection with something that doesn't provide movement. And then I also mentioned Simple Seal there too. So different extrusions, different solutions that we have here to make connections. And one of the unique qualities of Simple Seal is that you can notch it. So it could go up and over a mullion. It could do an inside-outside corner, very versatile.
Yeah, I think you know, even on both ProGlaze and Simple Seal, what we can do with geometry and degrees, right? So I think that's often not thought of much, but we know when we custom fit these that we design to fractions of a degree for something to be a precise fit.
Exactly. And I think that's what's so unique and so critical when we're making these connections, right? Because just as if you were going to get ready to paint a wall, and if Peter Sodorakos is watching right now, I hope you finished painting. He's got a honey-do list that he's been working on. Okay. But if you're painting your wall this weekend, you're going to pay attention to the detailing. And that's where we really want to focus on our structures too, right? It's going to be a lot easier. Of course, there's challenges when you're putting up an air barrier or any type of coating, but you need to pay attention to the details because that makes for a successful project. And of course, we want to help out with that. We want to help out with these unique solutions. We want to help out with engaging our design engineering team, and we want to provide warranties that back up those connections.
I'm surprised you don't have a bullet up there for sequence of installation. I must have just gotten to the cutting floor.
Yeah.
I've never seen you talk about this without sequence of installation.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. That is critical and it's important, and that's something that we can help out with too.
Yeah. And you know, of course, we support that not just in the design phase, but with the 3D animations, everything we can do to help the crew on the ground get it right 100% of the time.
Exactly, and I think that's a critical aspect of it, is helping out that crew. And then, of course, the last bullet there is about Nfpa 285. I think I'm going to partner with a consultant that maybe you're watching right now and do a whole broadcast on testing. We're going to do a whole month on testing, and obviously we will feature Nfpa 285 as one of those because it's definitely a hot topic and definitely is worth talking about in terms of life safety and what to look for from a performance perspective.
Yeah, I think the awareness on fire safety just keeps going up and up, especially after we had some recent incidents, right, that are very noteworthy, sad, noteworthy, but
exactly.
Really getting a lot more focus.
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's when the attention gets drawn to it, right? Yeah. If you're involved and you're watching our show today and you work for a contracting firm, we have lots of different programs as well associated with your aspect of the project. So if that's your scope of work, we definitely want to be able to engage with you in helping and assist you. I always like to say that as the manufacturer sitting here today with you all, we like to enhance what you do so we can help facilitate, make things easier for the project. And of course, a goal we all have is to make it be successful.
Yeah, and I think you know, one of our famous members of our team likes to say, how do we take decision making out from the real-time aspects of the field, right? That's really how we make it simpler.
Exactly. Exactly, and I think if we can make it simpler, you're going to save time. But a key thing is, and I think you might have mentioned this before, Paul, when we look at new innovative systems, we want to make sure that we're saving time because we know that's always critical, but we never want to compromise performance.
I actually try to do, not try, we will do both at the same time. Yeah. Improve performance, but save time.
Exactly, so that's a critical part of it. A lot of times we look at different systems and solutions that are out there, and you're not comparing apples to apples, so you definitely don't want to choose something that's going to compromise the performance in the end. And then I like this one. So obviously, when you look at building science, or you look at air barriers, or you look at coatings, or you look at roof membranes, there's a lot of competitors out there, right? And what we want to be able to show is that there is a difference in the partnership that you can choose. And what we really want to do, once again, is enhance that relationship and enhance the systems that we provide to you so you can have successful projects. So we really like to be able to focus and talk about the fact that we have so many different touch points for all those 6 sides of your structure.
Yeah. And the thing, Marcy, for me, that's always key, and I think I've learned this from you, is that we test the entire systems.
Yeah.
And we learn so much from that, and we just think that's a best practice, and really for us a must-have.
Absolutely, it's definitely a must-have. I just did a presentation this week for a design firm out of New York City, and that was the stress point I said to them, is that you want to test, you want to evaluate, but then what we like to do too is go above and beyond, because building to code is the least acceptable, right? That's the minimum. We want to see what that risk factor could be when you go above and beyond those test parameters.
Yeah, and I always use the word failure mode. So we test a failure, and critically what we want to see is what's the failure mode, right? And we always say, okay, I use the word elegant or not.
Right.
Elegant means, right, if you pull a thread on a sweater, did the whole sweater come off, or just create a little hole? So we really want a very localized failure, not catastrophic failure.
Exactly. And we want to be able to test it so we know at what point that could occur, because in lots of situations, since we're testing to such extremes, your building may not have or see that, but we want to understand what risk factors could occur when we take it from the theoretical or the inside test facility to out to your job site. Speaking of that, next week we're going to have a guest that's going to talk to us all about testing on the job site. So that'll be pretty exciting for us. And, you know, the remaining bullets we have here, it talks about some things that could be very simple as a sealant or accessory, and that's where we spend a lot of time too. So when I first started talking about air barriers, we were basic with sealants, and a lot of our competition weren't. So being able to have all those different connectivity options across your building enclosure so that we can make the right connection and make it appropriately is, I think, a really key part of it. And that holistic approach by having R&D very much involved, we invest in that. They're incredible to work with.
And your key word always, compatibility.
Compatibility.
Material compatibility. And I think, Marcy, you have more war stories about material incompatibility.
Yes.
Which is always a good reminder about you can't take it for granted.
Can't take it for granted.
It has to be tested.
Exactly. Compatibility is a key part. If you are a spec writer involved in specifications at all, make sure that that is noted. That needs to be evaluated, because all technologies are not created equal. I think we've shared those horror stories on one of these broadcasts or two. But so the other thing I say all the time is collaboration, right? So our building science test facility, which we will feature again, but we do live tours. We did 8 in the month of October, and we have a couple coming up in November. We actually have one on November 19th. If you're interested in being a part of that virtual tour where we walk through that test facility, but we really want everyone watching to know that this is a tool that's available to them. We want to be able to replicate that design intent, and we want to use it as a center for collaboration.
Yeah, and again, really help promote. It's a best practice before you build on the site. Let's build in our test facility and start from there. And I think the other thing we always learn, it's rare that the first pass through at the test facility is clean. So there's always learning going on.
Oh yeah, always learning how the detailing can affect the overall performance, always learning how different types of threaded fasteners can affect the overall performance. And that's a key part of education. When we look at different test methods, that's what they are, right? It's a test method. And if you change anything on that assembly, you're gonna wanna know how that could change your performance. And that's why we have this great facility, and that's why we open it up as a collaboration site. Once again, about enhancing everyone that's involved in those projects.
The other thing you've taught me, there's usually more than one okay or correct way to do something, but there's probably only one best way. And the testing will tend to reveal that.
Exactly. And it's great because there's so many times where we can say, well, I think you should install it this way. And it might be a theoretical way. You might have thought about it based on physical properties, but when you can show somebody why they need to install it that way.
And sometimes it's counterintuitive too, right?
Absolutely.
You're like, oh, it ought to be better if I put something extra on.
Exactly.
And sometimes maybe that's not true.
Exactly. And that's part of our virtual tour we just started doing, is we added polling questions in. So we'll have a picture of different anchors, and we'll say, okay, which one worked? And then we talk about what those results were. So that's the kind of education we can do. Until we can meet again face to face, we'll continue to do these things virtually.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of collaboration, we always like to bring on guests that can talk to us about their projects, and today is no different. Today we have two guests. We have Pat Garrity from Tremco returning again. We think it's his second or third time. I don't know. We'll see. We'll check our records. And of course, we have Nick Markley as well from Flynn. So we want to welcome both of you to Tremco Live.
Thank you for having me. I think this is only two, but I would have been more than happy to come 3, 4, 5 times.
Well, it's not enough times, Pat. We're going to work on that.
We won't talk about your ability to add at this point, right? 1 + 1 is 3. That could be an advantage. Sounds like sales 101.
I'm working on it.
Yes, yes, it does.
And Nick, welcome to Tremco Live.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you, guys. Pat, we know you. He's a sales rep out of Kansas City. We know and love him. But Nick, we want to get to know you. So tell me a little bit about yourself and the company that you represent and your time in this industry.
Sure. My name is Nick Markley. I've been with Flynn Midwest. We're a Canadian-based company. I'm going on almost 30 years with the company through a couple of different owners, but it's been quite a journey for me. But yeah, like I said, we're a Canadian-based company. We're actually based out of Kansas City, Missouri. We have 18 branches across Canada, and we actually just purchased our 14th location in Utah about 45 days ago and closed on that location. So we're growing across the U.S. as well.
Great. That's great. We do have a video. I'm not going to share it, but when we send out the thank you, we're going to include it. We did have Nick and other of his colleagues do a great video about the relationship that we've had with Flynn and the individuals that work with Nick. But I think you mentioned that you've been working side by side with Tremco for 20 years.
Probably longer than that, but yeah, we've done a lot of things over those years.
3 years ago, so 23 years.
There you go. That's probably a little closer.
Yeah. That's great. I know in having conversations with you and listening to the information you had on that video, you talked about just being able to simplify things when you're working with one installer that can handle a lot of different touch points on the building.
Yeah, I think, we're kind of a unique company, at least in the Midwest region of the United States. We carry all 3 scopes of that exterior building envelope, from the air barrier to the glass and glazing, to the architectural sheet metal, and to the roofing as well. So it allows us a chance to attack these larger projects, where we can consume and control the entire exterior building envelope. And once you can do that, it makes the owner's life a whole lot easier. It makes our life a whole lot easier, because when there's a leak, there's one person to go to, and it just makes it a whole lot easier to handle those situations and deal with them as they arise.
It makes for a really good partnership, having that owner's perspective in mind and making it simpler for them. I understand that Flynn, as you mentioned, is that total envelope contractor. And I see some words here up on the screen that show that total building envelope for new build, replace, repair. It sounds very similar to our messaging, which makes for a good partnership for sure.
Yeah, it's like I said, with as far as Tremco is concerned, with us, we've had Pat in, we've had Tremco in on a lot of projects. We brought them in. Pat, you can help me out a little bit with this, but I know in the last 5 years or so, we've brought them in regards to our roofing division a whole lot more. So we're trying to grow that side of it as well, in regards to that roofing scope. And it does help when we have certain manufacturers and vendors and things that are willing to get on board with us up front and in the beginning of these larger projects, and it makes it a lot smoother as we complete them.
Well, as we kind of grown our relationship, it's one of those things that when his estimators are looking at projects, they'll get in touch with me and we'll go over all the scopes that you guys are potentially looking at on that job. So for these larger, higher profile healthcare jobs, to your point, for us to have all that testing done and can provide all those different scopes of work with materials, then we get together early on to talk about how all the details are going to go. And we get engineers from corporate, tech service, anybody. We got a lot of resources. So we've created a pretty good partnership, and we've done a lot of really nice projects over the last really 5 to 7 or 8 years.
And I think that's a key part of it, right? Getting together early, making sure we're all communicating, but I hope you also feel we're trying to cut off a lot of that by getting a lot of this testing done way ahead of time, right? So you're not starting at zero with our systems. We've done a lot of that compatibility ahead of time. I put up a few pictures here of the actual Cerner, some of the pictures from the Cerner project. You guys want to tell us a little bit about that? Because I think it's a sizable job, or should I say jobs or buildings?
Yeah, that's part of a very large complex out there. I mean, of course, right now they're like everybody else, kind of closed down a little bit due to COVID, but Cerner's one of our larger clients. I mean, they've been in the healthcare technology industry for over 40 years. We've done a number of projects with them, and kind of what you're seeing there on that is, that's a butt glaze conditioned with the glass, which that's a Tremco sealant there, and then you're seeing that ETA corner there, which of course is the ETA transition onto the AWB for that project there, and that's a link between two buildings there, and it's a sawtooth condition. So as you look down that picture, you're seeing all of those exposed outside corners, and those were all those were all closed and waterproofed with the AWB and the ETA.
Nice. So I know there was a couple challenges you guys faced on this job, and you came up with some pretty innovative solutions. You want to tell us a little bit about the solution you have with ProGlaze 2?
Yeah, so there's just an absolute enormous amount of vertical structural joints on this particular facility. So one of the conditions we had was trying to, from an owner standpoint, how do we get these buildings complete in a timely manner, but look complete as we go. So one of the things that we did with this project is I got together with Pat early on, and we discussed different ideas on how we can tackle this perception problem that we were having with our owners. So what we came up with was, with the ProGlaze, was a two-part pump, which we kind of created a custom, rack and different things to allow us to get it inside the building. And what we ended up doing was using it on the entirety of this project for all of our interior structural caulk joints. So by doing that, and with all the testing we did up front with Tremco, it allowed us to, within 24 to 36 hours, based on all of our pool testing and everything that we did with it, it allowed us to remove all of our glass temporaries and proceed straight to the butt joint conditions and get those caulked and completed in a 3-day time frame in lieu of 25 to 30 days to 40 days, and give that perception, as well as getting things done, that the building's more complete. So from a perception standpoint to our owners, it was a way to really keep them happy, but it was also a very cost savings measure in using that two-part pump. And on a project like this, like we discussed, I don't see going any other route in the future.
And I know that part of that solution, obviously the perception of making it appear that to the owner it wasn't done, even though it was, and then just speeding it up was a huge part of it. And then I think you mentioned the connectivity solutions too. So I think in our discussion you were thinking you might have done 40 to 50,000 lineal feet of ProGlaze ETA on some of these buildings and other buildings that you've worked on.
Yeah, these buildings in particular, I'm guessing we were closer to about 46, Pat, right? 46, 48,000 lineal feet of ETA. And on these projects, we have, the architectural team, does a great job in providing these dimensional floor plans to where it allows us to, kind of prefabricate all of the ETA. And we'll get all that done ahead of time. And by the time we get to the field, it's pretty much ready to go. I mean, it's a product with you know, there's a few oddball vertical conditions on these projects where we have, you know, done some testing with Tremco in regards to getting these custom corners and custom conditions worked out up front. But without the ETA, these projects would be hard to do. I mean, it's a product that, I mean, we're very happy with, and you know, we've installed a lot of it now, and it's something that we'll continue to use in the future.
I think having conversations with you, you were talking about the fact that even when it's not specified, they will go out of their way to utilize ProGlaze ETA just because they've been able, and I think that's an important message because sometimes people get sticker shock when they look at the cost of something like ProGlaze ETA, but they've definitely been able to witness and shown time savings in the installation. And I think you guys even set up kits, right? So you pre-cut the lengths for the lineals. So when they got to the job site, it was ready to go to start installing.
Yeah, like I said, that's one of the things we try to do. You know, if we've got a lot of vertical type conditions, and yeah, we'll save a lot of time and labor if we just go ahead and pre-cut it and we'll rebox it. And when it gets to the job, it's pretty much ready to go. But from a Flynn standpoint, this is a product that, you know, if we have a curtain wall condition where it's just perimeter caulked, for example, and say it's a inside corner or outside corner, a weird corner condition where that caulk joint is just really not a viable option, then we'll use the ETA in a lot of those conditions, you know, whether it's specified or whether it's not. It's just, you know, it's a product that, you know, it's easy to submit that to our architect, our design team, and say, hey, we can handle this condition with that product. And you know, it's a product that we've used for expansion joints, for example, in the floors. It's a product that is very you know, capable of doing other things, and we use them for all of those. So it's one of those things that, like I said, from a product standpoint, it's got a lot of possibilities, and we try them all.
That's good. I think there's quite a few things that in the video that we captured, and a lot of your colleagues were talking about, but one of them in particular said that your business, so Flynn, it's key to be able to provide the complete building envelope, and to be able to do that, you have to be able to provide an air and waterproof system that can and will be tested successfully. So I thought that was a key part of what we like to do and how we can collaborate and work together on projects.
Yeah, especially on our healthcare facilities. I mean, we all know that water infiltration it's bad for any project, but for a healthcare or, you know, any type of medical facility, it's even worse. So in regards to, you know, we had outsourced air barriers and different things for a number of years, and then over the last couple of years, we've recently made an acquisition of a air barrier company in Kansas City who's now with us. It's somebody we had a long relationship of, but it also gave us that, from our standpoint, it gave us that control of the air barrier as well. So it's a lot easier upfront, especially on larger projects, even smaller projects, where we can have these details mocked up, we can have these details worked out, we can get with Tremco if we need to. And it's just one of those things that I think it allows everybody to become comfortable in those kind of non-typical details, knowing, you know, that we're going to do everything we can to keep that water infiltration out. And it's something that, you know, allows the owners to have a lot of peace of mind too, that, you know, we've got them worked out up front.
So there was a different campus for Cerner about 3 years prior to this, and there was, I mean, the numbers on the ETA lineal footage is probably right. I think it was in the mid 40,000 feet, but the campus prior to this was a couple buildings, and we did not, XOR 130 had not come out yet. So when we started working with you guys on this one, because this, what you're looking at here is the, they don't call it the Cerner Trails campus anymore. What do they call it, Nick?
Innovations,
but it's supposed to be 8 total buildings. So this is 1 and 2. But when we had XOR 130 finally available to work out the specifications, they said it's just 10 times easier to have that one manufacturer tying everything that we had pre-tested, made the mock-ups. Everybody's life was a lot easier to be able to use XOR 130 on this one. And then on buildings 3 and 4, which I don't know if we have a picture sitting here, but we use, when it got cold out, Exaware 110 AT instead of the fluid applied during those months. So it's half the building with fluid and then half of it with peel stick. So we had multiple options to be able to help them with. And for the most part, I mean, I had to go out there and do our regular site visits to provide field reports and everything, but it was not a lot of phone calls with concerns and issues. And those are the ones that you don't like to go out on job sites to all the time. So from Glenn's standpoint, I think everything was successful, and hopefully we get through this time period. Buildings 5 and 6 will be shortly around the corner.
Yeah, these healthcare buildings here, they're every project schedule driven, but this one's driven more around the weather and the seasons. And we've done a number of these. Like I said, this is our 6th, complex high-rise type condition for these buildings here, and it never fails. We're going to start these things in October, November, and then we're gonna power through the middle of the winter. So prior to 3 and 4, the question we came back to Pat and Tremco with was, how do we keep working through the winter? How do we not lose time? How do we not miss days because it's 20 degrees or 18 degrees and that was like Pat was just discussing, that's how we cured that and allowed us to maintain schedule and just drive right through winter. And that's another factor that, really helps us in getting these things done on time.
Absolutely. I think throughout the video, which, as I mentioned, we're going to send everybody, you have a lot of different additional advice just in terms of mock-ups and proper installation, and how just being flexible and customizable when you have to be able to change up different types of transition areas, I think is a great key part of these successful buildings. I think we've got one more slide here that just kind of rounds off everything that, maybe not everything, but majority of what was worked on here all together. And I think that's a key part of successful installation, and having one manufacturer with, having someone like Pat being able to be there, as well as the design engineering team back here in Cleveland.
Yeah, and I'm glad, Nick, you brought up the bad weather, inclement weather thing, because I think, Marcy, in the last 20 years, we've solved pretty much all those challenges. And if they're not solved, they're in development, right? How do you just work through cold or wet or both?
Exactly, yeah. Which leads us to the conclusion of our broadcast. So Nick and Pat, we want to thank you guys so much for being able to speak with everybody today and wind down our Friday together. So thank you. Pat, we'll see you on our next broadcast. I'm just kidding.
Just 5th.
Thank you again.
Yes,
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks,
Pat.
Yep. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. We're going to close with a final poll, which they led into perfectly for us. So if we could pull up that final poll. Who has encountered cold or inclement weather challenges? So have you? Yes. Or have you not? No.
And if you've not solved them,
yep,
please call us.
If you haven't solved them, we are going to reach out and talk to you about them. So if you guys can answer that polling question real quick, we'll see how that comes in. We're still living in the cloud of happiness right now because we're approaching a weekend of being in the 60s.
It's perfect Indian summer weather in, I don't know, early November in Cleveland, Marcy.
That's perfect.
That does not happen a lot.
It's not.
And I think it's going to be for a whole nother week.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
So thank you for answering that poll. It looks like 79% of you have had an issue or encountered cold or inclement weather challenges for your installs. And to the 21% of you, we're jealous of the geography that you live in. But once again, we'll be reaching out based on these polling questions periodically to everybody. If you have a topic you'd like to share, if you'd like to give thanks to your customer by featuring them on a future broadcast, please let me know. And with that, we will say thank you for joining us.
We'll see you next week. Take care.
Thank you.